Thank you so much, Arnab, for coming to the show. Really appreciate your time. Before we actually go ahead with the topic of the day, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jess. So I'm glad to be here. And my name is Arnab. I live in New York, Queens in New York City. And I'm currently the outgoing CTO at VNS Health and have around 30 years of experience working in financial services, healthcare, and pharma in different roles, mostly
Mhm.
focusing on architecture and data. Also, currently pursuing a doctoral degree in AI in the specialization in system engineering.
Great. Thank you. Arnab, we have reached an interesting point in the AI journey. Every enterprise now has access to the foundational models, and yet we are seeing dramatic difference in the outcomes of the organization. That tells me that the competitive advantage is no longer AI itself. It is the enterprise behind it. It is the applications behind it. So I have quick two examples to share. Years before Gen AI boom, Zillow built AI powered home buying business. It ultimately had to shut down after recording more than 500 million in inventory write downs and losses. And if you fast forward to today, we have one of the examples I'm taking of JP Morgan that has rolled out governed AI platform for more than 200,000 employees. And the CEO says that it's already delivering billions of dollars in annual revenue. So, different generations of AI, the same enterprise lesson. Leading AI programs at Tech Focus, one thing is very clear to me that model gets the headline, the news, but actually enterprise determines the real outcome, the real ROI. So let me start here with you. Why you think AI is exposing enterprises' strengths and weaknesses more than any technology wave has ever done before?
Okay, so let's look at it from a perspective. That is, as we had seen, the major transformations that we had seen, for example, Y2K, that was a
Yeah.
huge endeavor that many companies had undertaken. So, of course, the companies went back to the legacy codes and fixed a simple problem of
Hmm.
a digit debt field into
Hmm.
4 digits, right? So, but that was the work that was done, which was the objective. But what came out of as a byproduct was the understanding of the applications that the companies had. So
Right.
it gives them an opportunity to get a full hand, arms around all the assets that the companies had at that time. I think the
Hmm.
same can be talked about AI as well. We saw the same thing with cloud as well. If you look into
Hmm.
another
Yeah.
big transformation,
But
that cloud, it it eliminated a lot of manual tasks that had to
hmm.
be done in order to rack and stack the servers, provision the servers, which had very little alignment with what a business like banking or insurance or healthcare would be doing. So what cloud gave us was infrastructure as code. So
Yeah.
we were able to to build out infrastructure very quickly, deterministically, with a high probability of success using repeatable patterns like infrastructure as code. Similarly, as we come to AI, we see two things. One
Hmm.
is the bright, shiny objects. Of course, whenever we see a new innovation, it
Yeah.
can be well described by Gartner's the hype cycle, where you have an innovation trigger which creates a peak of inflated expectations. Then there is a trough of disillusionment. Then there is a hope of enlightenment, and there is a plateau of productivity. So we go through this seasonality or those transient times before we get to a deterministic, a sustainable value driven by the capability. I think with AI, to answer your question, we see that it's not only the intelligence layer.
Hmm.
It's a long elongated story because there are data, there is infrastructure, there are a lot of pieces that need to be there, which companies could work with in manual steps before. But now that we are bringing machines in, we are bringing a totally new player into the ecosystem who need a different type of way of working in order to give the results. So agents don't get tired. There's a lot of productivity issue benefits. There's a lot of benefits that will come with this, but at the same time, it takes away the human intelligence,
Hmm.
which we should not underestimate. So it is giving us an opportunity to look into certain things that we were able to do without,
Mm-hmm.
certain rigorous capabilities which human beings were able to improvise or they were able to do by themselves. Now that model would not work, and we will need those things to be designed properly. The reasoning frameworks, the RAG, or the new protocols which are emerging, new architectures which are emerging, in order to have the machines work together with humans in that case.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I can add one more thing to this, there is also, I think we need to understand AI from when I'm taking from your question, cue from your question, that is, AI has been around for quite some time.
Yeah.
So deep learning, machine learning had been around. So companies were able to predict
Hmm.
the customer behavior, the market penetration. So all these things they were able to predict. What we get new with this is generative AI, which was a new concept, and then agentic AI. I think that distinction needs to be understood very clearly. And what we are using it for. Are you using it only for repeating certain tasks? Are we using it for augmenting? Or are we looking at full autonomy of replacing certain activities with machines, with agents versus humans? I think that context has to be set in the right.
Do you think that this time is more like the audit time? Those organizations have built their data foundations well. They are really creating good outcomes. However, where the data foundation is not good, output is not real. So, what do you think about that?
Right? Let's take a
Yeah.
simple analogy. That is, let's think of a business
Hmm.
which, say, you're building cakes. You form a bakery and you want to make cakes, right? So what do you need? You need an oven, you need recipe, you need ingredients, and you need some tools, utensils, knives, plates, so on and so forth. And you also need a chef. So five things, right? You need those five things. Now, if you apply it in the context of AI, you have the oven, which is the infrastructure, which is the cloud infrastructure. Then the recipe is a large language model. The ingredients is the data, the different types of data. And then you need software engineering techniques, MLOps, in order to promote the code, in order to manage the code. And of course, you need governance, which is like that of a chef, right? So the real challenge comes in with the ingredients,
Hmm.
right? So you can have a recipe. The recipe can be tweaked. The cloud is sort of matured at this time, but if you look into the type of data which a company has, that is where the big differentiator comes in. There was an MIT report which came out last year in July. So NANDA stands for the network agents in decentralized architecture, in which they're taking an agentic view of the internet, right? How the agents would interact with them. So from the Nanda project, as they're building it out, they did a detailed analysis, a detailed report based on which they found out that only 5% companies are actually going to be able to make the P&L level impact with AI
Hmm.
initiatives. Others are stuck with pilots.
Hmm.
But at the pilot, they're using with synthetic data, they're using a very small, narrow use case, a narrow model, and you can easily show success. But when you're dealing with real life issues, we have data coming in from 40 different sources. The
Hmm.
definition of customer is different in different databases. The definition of product is different. So that's where the real life impurities kick in. The real life challenges coming in. It's a complex problem. And that is where the initiatives are failing. I think those companies which have really invested in their data, not only in data management or data storage, but also all the layers that go around it, like data governance, data
Hmm.
quality, metadata management, and also the new features that machines require in terms of RAG, knowledge graph, ontology, and so on and so forth, they're being able to reap a windfall of benefits with that.
True,
So
I agree. And I remember 2024, everybody was busy doing POCs. And there was so much talk about, I am doing this, I am doing that. Adoption was really high that point of time. Now it has gone down because the time has come when people have started scaling. The POC time is kind of over for most of them. So now the adoption is declining a bit because the reality is here that how much you can really scale.
right? You have a heightened expectation, so which is all euphoria, all hype, and then you have go through that dose of reality, where you
Yeah.
sort of figure out that not everything that was promised can actually be delivered in the context of your business, right? Not in an ideal world, but in a real world. And that is where you go through a trough of disillusionment and then real expectations set in. And I think that is key. One more thing I'd like to mention here, Tess, that in case of AI, it's not only one capability.
Hmm.
We're actually talking about a set of capabilities. We're talking about MLOps, which has sort of reached the plateau of productivity. We have generative AI, which is now at the trough of disillusionment, as you rightly said, that it is now setting into the mainstream world. But many other things which are on the peak of expectation, inflated expectation, AGI, for example, uh, ambient AI, for example. So there are a
Yeah.
lot of things which are being discovered, being
Yeah.
innovated, and they have a long way to go. So it's a set of different capabilities, and they are at different maturity levels or
Mhm.
different time, 6 months to 2 years to reach the plateau of productivity.
Yeah.
That makes it more complicated.
And whenever there is any shiny object like Gen AI or before that cloud, rate of phasing that object is pretty high, and then slowly it gets down. So that is the kind of nature we have seen. And we have lived through the cloud transformation, and I keep seeing the same enterprise pattern. Organizations adopt the technology first and try to redesign the operating model later. For many of the organizations, I have seen that. During the cloud period, I've seen companies lifted and shifted applications to data center without actually simplifying the enterprise and having the data foundation underneath. With Gen AI as well, many organizations are doing the same thing, deploying co-pilots, chatbots before actually thinking that customer journey, escalation path, governance, human interaction, human role should continue to play an important part. AI optimize the interaction, but enterprises still owe the relationship.
Let me give a few examples to what you just said, practical examples that we have dealt with, right? So you took the example of cloud.
Yeah.
So before companies would engage into a cloud journey, it is extremely vital and important to
Hmm.
keep an inventory of all their applications and put a lifecycle management in front of it,
Hmm.
and like a buy, sell, hold, right? That is, there are some applications which we're going to actively invest, certain things that we're going to tolerate, and certain things we are going to retire. We're going to
Hmm.
exit out, right? So if you know that you're going to exit out of it, there's no point putting that in cloud.
Yeah.
So that kind of an analysis, that kind of judgment, decision should precede the cloud journey, right?
Mhm.
So similarly, in this case as well, with the case of AI, the processes had been, in many cases, we find multiple variants of a business process based on a product. And the companies grow organically or inorganically through acquisitions. There are multiple processes which can exist, multiple for multiple products. So first, in order to standardize and get benefit out of it, we need to standardize the process first. So
Hmm.
this BDAT from a business starts with business layer, business process layer, then the data, then the application, then the technology.
Hmm.
Usually we put the cart,
Technology. Yeah.
horse in this case, and not go through the right level of order. I think that is something which is extremely important because, as you rightly said earlier, that's the bright shiny object and the boggy backend. Usually, the bright shiny objects get the visibility, attention, and the boggy backend, if I can use that term, because of the high investment involved in this. Take the example of a restaurant, right?
Hmm.
In a restaurant, you usually make small changes in the seating area depending on season, summer, in spring, in winter. There are small changes, very minute changes. Those things happen. But a change in the kitchen is done once in 20 years because that's a high
Hmm.
ticket. So similarly, I think what we do is we go towards incremental investment for businesses and put the focus on the front office, and the back office gets sort of overseen. There's an oversight on that, and
Yeah.
that comes and bites you back because of the investment gap and the technology debt.
So, what do you think? Or what could be the reason that companies, enterprises constantly adopt new technologies first, then they actually think of redesigning the operating model around it?
Okay.
What are
So
the specifics?
let's go to, I'll talk about two theories in this case, if it's that okay, starting with the first principles. So Clayton Christensen, very well known, has a fantastic book called The Innovator's Dilemma. And
Yeah.
he has given real life examples when some companies, really established companies, they were doing their job so well with their established products, with their
Hmm.
established customer base, they actually miss that what is the new thing because the market is changing all the time. So they
Yeah.
cannot position themselves with the new products and services as they emerge, and their part of their profit is taken up by the new entrants, right? So for that, Clayton had a concept, disruptive innovation, and so there are different dynamics that play over there, and we have seen many examples of that. We have seen Blockbuster and Netflix. We have seen BlackBerry, Nokia with iPhones, with Apple. So what his viewpoint was that I think it's prudent for companies to
Mm.
start up sort of have a spin-off, which focuses on the pure play part of technology and not disrupt the mainstream business model. And once they find such significant level of confidence with the new hypothesis testing, the investment models, with operating models, that's the time when they integrate the new technology. I think that's a very prudent model, which we can see that it's a combination of innovation and adaptation. So that's what I was talking about the second theory, which is Curtin's adaptive innovation theory, in which
Mhm.
you have we human beings, we think in two ways. One is that is we try to innovate, but when we innovate, we have a narrow or a very
Ni-
limited amount of scope that we work with. But when we talk about existing systems in company, existing processes in the company, then adapting those systems overnight is not possible. That requires huge amount of investment, huge amount of funding, and the right
Mm.
analysis has to be made in terms of total cost of ownership. So I think the model that Curtin talks about is you have innovation on one side and you have adaptation on one side, and the right the business value is created when there is significant collaboration, significant value, I would say cross collaboration between these two teams. And
Mm.
we can really look through the entire architecture, systems of engagement, systems of records, which had traditionally been built. Now we are putting a new layer in between, the system of intelligence, which
Mm.
is not a tool, not a specific technology.
Exactly.
It is everywhere but nowhere. It is
Mhm.
nowhere but everywhere. So it's like electricity, right? So I think we are getting into that sort of a pervasive kind of technology where we are building an intelligence, embedding it within the process,
Mhm.
and I would talk about Lean Six Sigma as a very strong accelerator for that. So there are opportunities to take a step back, look at it from a design or architecture standpoint, and then have a well-informed strategy by
Mhm.
which companies can take it versus just chasing a specific tool, because that may give you some short-term benefits, but the long-term or the delayed gratification is going to be compromised in that case.